Right. So today I wanted to talk a bit about funnel hacking and sort of a heuristic on how to think about it from the perspective of, is funnel hacking going to work for you? So, because obviously it's a very popular way of entering a market, which is just finding a competitor and rip them off, and that is the extent to which well, and then there's an entire industry and a whole conference that happens once a year on the whole topic. So it's definitely an accepted strategy that is taught. I've never really been a big fan of it for a couple of reasons. That while it may get you quickly into the market, you take shortcuts to get there. Obviously, it's a nice shortcut to get there, and the problem is that if something stops working, then you're stuck. Because the fundamental understanding was not there to do it. So I'll see if I can build out a small. I want to do a Venn diagram. And let me just go view all and show you what I mean by that. So I think it's a cycle one. Yeah, I think that one will do. Perfect. Right. So the first section that I wanted to cover is the prospect, and this is something we're doing a lot in Persuasion SOS. The next one is your product, which we'll do a lot of that in Persuasion SOS as well. Next comes competitors, and this is the part that is largely supplied by the funnel hack, i.e. what is the competition doing? And if I could put it all the way out here, would be sort of the mood of the times, so to speak. So what I mean by that is sort of what is the current environment within which these three things are trying to work. So things like, trying to do promotion during an election cycle, or perhaps in a high interest rate environment or inflationary environment, and those sort of things. So they play into it in a number of ways. Number one, it changes the offer that you're going to make, or can change the offer that you're going to make, I should say. That's the first thing. The second thing is that there are things that you'd be trying to understand that will probably not work anymore because the mood has changed. So, for example, something that worked really well during COVID, where every government in the world was signing checks for free money, and so an offer from back then probably is not going to work now, even though your competitors have not changed, the product has not changed, and the prospect has not changed. So it's that sweet spot that I want to talk about today, which is the intersection of the competitors and the prospect, right? So that's largely where the funnel hacking part comes in, where you just copy your competitor and launch the thing. It means that you don't have to spend too much time on understanding the prospect. You don't even have to spend too much on the product. Just copy and paste what the competition is saying. But there is a inverse, or sort of like a heuristic, that's probably a better way of putting it, a way to think about this. And that's what I wanted to focus on today's topic. So the heuristic of funnel hacking. And I got a simple formula that once again, it's not a formula that's going to give you a calculation, but a way to think about it. So let's say if there is a competitor, right, and he is a competitor is doing really well, right? So let's assume there's someone whose funnel you've run into, and they're absolutely killing it. And so the question now becomes is what number are you who is funnel hacking? That's for lack of a better word, right? So the way to think about it is this. So if you're the second person, so it's 1/2. So you almost have like a 50% chance of making it. Obviously, it's not a probability of making it, but it's the heuristic. But let's say if you're the 1/100th person who's doing it, right? So now all of a sudden it's 1%. And unfortunately, and so the way that we work out whether you're the second person or the kind of nth, some big number, 20th, 30th, 50th, 100th, is sort of how long has that promotion been running for. So if you were to go back to our little model here, which looks at product, prospect, and competitors, then we're looking to see, perhaps use a spy tool or sort of how common is it. So how many competitors right now are sending you, are running that message? right? So for example, if you go into solar now, it's like zero down solar has been like, done to death. But 2017, like kind of like 2018, 2019, that was like a new thing that popped up, or at least it was newish. So you could take that and really run with it. But if you were to do that today, it's not going to work too well, not because of just the competition, but because your prospect has also seen the message for the last 4 or 5 years, and so it's sort of run out of gas, right? So that's the main issue with the approach of funnel hacking, is that it's a little bit too linear for a dynamic environment, which is our business. And so you need to understand the sort of where you are in the timeline of when you're hacking. So if you're really early in the cycle, then obviously you can ride the wave up. But if you're at the end of the cycle, i.e., it's been done to death. So which is why sometimes when people jump on the call and they say, oh, you know what's really working right now, right? And I'm like, I can't really tell you, because that would be giving away someone's hard work and energy who's gone out there and tested so many different things until they found a hook or an appeal that resonates with the market. And so that's all I want. So largely wanted to speak about that today, because I'm seeing that it's almost like at like a pandemic level, I guess, if you can call it a marketing pandemic, is the idea that you can just go copy someone. And yes, you can get away with it for a while. Or if you get lucky by being early in the cycle, you might get away with it. But I've never had anyone explain it in that way, that, well, hang on a second, yes, you're going to go copy someone, but has this campaign already been run to death? If that's the case, then it probably won't work for you. So it's quite important to get an understanding of how long has that appeal or promotion been running, or competitive promotions been running. And you often see that in the megalog space. I remember Gary Bensavenga talking about it, where he's like, one of the things he likes to see is what has already been done, because he wants to make sure that he does not either he takes something that's working and comes up with a new concept around it, or a new way of saying it, or if it's been done to death, then he has to come up with a new idea. And so he used to always say that whenever he did campaigns for his clients, he'd always do one that he felt was like mainstream, like something that's going to work right out of the block, and then he'd pick another one that was a slightly edgy idea that perhaps has got a low chance of success, but is something novel or something new that is presented to the marketplace. And that's how we would generally do it. And that's a great way to think about how you want to start a promotion as well, because while you can go copy someone, and that's great, but what else are you going to bring to the table that if that does not work? And that was the main reason for essentially selling Persuasion SOS last week. It's off the market now, so this is not a promo for it in any way, but just want to share with you that they are the things that we'll be going about in the next 2 or 3 weeks. While the first call was all about how to, in one prompt, find out what are the hidden desires and appeals and problems and all that kind of stuff of your ideal customer, based on certain type of data point that you put into the prompt. Right. So that's kind of like all I have today to talk about this topic. Is that if you are going to funnel hack, then make sure that you have some other idea, have some new way of doing it. And for those of you, I think there's 2 of you or 3 of you in Persuasion SOS, so we'll be covering a bit of that, and how do you take an old idea and make it new. So we'll be looking at that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But the most important part of this is the heuristic of funnel hacking, which is what is your order, your pecking order, so to speak. Sort of, what cab off the rank are you? If you're the first cab, then obviously you win. But if you're the 50th cab or the 100th cab, then the chance of you picking up a new customer gets less and less and less, because the early cabs have already taken the better deals or the better value. Right. So hope that kind of makes sense. Sometimes funnel hacking is used a little bit too blindly. So I'm not against it or for it. It's just one sort of tool in the toolkit. And if that's what you want to use, then that's great. Use it. But also know that the order in which you're doing it will have a massive difference in whether it works or not. Which is why sometimes when you just copy someone, it works right out of the gate, and sometimes when you copy someone, it doesn't. I remember when I was doing CPA offers, I used to always wonder, like, why is that? And then one day it dawned on me, because I got access to I think AdBeat or one of those spy tools. And I started going back like, a year or 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, wow, someone's been talking about this for 3 years now. So no wonder it's hard to find a group of people who have not seen that message before. And that's why a lot of if you read a lot of the guys in the financial space, so they're selling newsletter subscriptions and like your boardroom Rodale Agora, like that level, they're always thinking of new ways of showing an old idea, right? And they call it what do they call it? They call it neologizing, right? Which is taking an old idea and sort of spinning it. So anyway, so if you are going to take an old idea, then your campaign one should be a version A, should be as is, or a close variation, a very close variation, a lazy variation, I should say. And then the next one should be where you actually do a bit of work and try and understand what the customer is saying, what is the dominant emotion in the market, and so on and so forth, and develop something off that, rather than just so that way you have you've increased your chance of having one that actually hits the mark, rather than going like, well, what the hell happened here? In fact, I realized how powerful funnel hacking was because there was someone inside Lead Took in 2018, I think. He was doing solar, and he went from like 0 to 100,000 or $200,000 a month in very short order, like almost like a month or two. And then I remember he shared in a Facebook group how well he's doing. It wasn't the Lead Took group, but it was some other group, and I happened to see the post there. So I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, are you really sure you want to do this, right? Because you will get ripped off." And he told me that he believes in abundance or something, and literally within 30 days the funnel was dead. So it was a great confirmation for me that how new your idea is has a lot to do with how much money you're making out of it. And if you're going to have a whole bunch of people who come in and just steal it, your campaign will die. And so there's no better data point than that. And that's happened more often than not, right? So anyway, I'll leave it at that, at the funnel hacking. If there's any question on this part, please feel free to unmute the mic or put in the chat here. Otherwise, I'll open it up to questions. And if there's any other questions that have popped up in what you guys are trying to do with your funnels or anything to do with Lead Took, more than happy to share that. So yeah, this week just wanted to talk a bit about funnel hacking and sort of where should it sit as a tool in toolkit, and not to think funnel hacking is a business model. All right, that's probably a better way of putting it. Yeah, so don't mistake funnel hacking as a business. It's not. It's just a promotion strategy. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Josh. All right, anything else? Eric, how you doing?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. You haven't been here for a week. I thought you were sick.
I know. I forget what I was busy last week. Couldn't figure.
All good.
Yeah.
All good. Cool.
Here today. Thank you.
All right, awesome. All right, guys. Anybody else? Paul, Jay, any questions on maybe not this, but anything else that's troubling you guys in your business?
Hey, Jay or Nick.
Yeah.
Nick, I got a question for you.
Sure, go for it.
It was a couple weeks ago when you were talking about landing pages, and it was more important to kind of split test.
Yes.
The landing pages versus the ad creative. I think that's what you were talking about.
Yeah. No. It was. I said to test rather than just test the ad and the landing pages, to test the alignment of the ad to the landing page. I'll see if I can bring it up. I think I have that here somewhere. Let me just bring up my PowerPoint. It was in a PowerPoint, and I can bring the diagram up. So hopefully that acts as a good reference, rather than so hopefully we're both talking about the same thing. Then you can correct me if I'm going down the wrong rabbit hole here. So just give me one tick while this thing loads up.
Thank you.
Okay, let's have a look. Just I'll get to your question very shortly. All right. DMA. No, wrong DMA. Just give me 1 second. Let me just quickly bring this up here. Go. All right. Documents. Presentations. Okay. Right, there we go. Let's have a look. Modified. DMA 2024, that's the one. Oh. Here you're right. So let's quickly scroll down to that correct chart. It's this one here. Okay, so the point I was making, so I'll just quickly summarize the idea, and then you can let me know what the question is. Is not to just test the. You can see my screen, right? This is the running better split test.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So rather than just running ads of any idea they can think of and then driving it to the same lander, and then worrying about if it's going to convert or not, this doesn't really, as I said here, it only tests ad performance, because if that's got a high CTR, then that's probably something you should do with it. But does not test conversions, because if you're sending totally different unrelated ideas into a lander, then you are probably it's hard to know, is the wrong kind of person seeing my lander, or did the language just change as a result? The guy's like, hang on, where the hell am I? And I think the example that I gave was actually this one here, where they spoke about no cost, and then they're coming here and talking about government rebates, right? So there's conceptually, these are two separate ideas. They're not the same thing. So a better split test is this. Then that way you actually do test that the concept of my ad. So let's say as a concept in terms of no cost solar. So this one will be no cost solar. You go to a landing page. It'll go to a landing page that talks all about what is a no cost solar. How is it no cost, and here's the big opportunity. And then if you are running an ad that was talking about government rebates, then this ad should be all about, here's how to, scam the government and squeeze maximum government rebate out of them. And then that way your landing page then would be all about government rebates as well. So that way you have zero down, or no cost, and then you have zero down, and then you have government rebate. So you're not mixing and matching them. So you're not talking about government rebate here and then landing on the page. That's not. Which is what this example is, right? It's all about no cost, and then it comes down here and it's a generic page. So you can tell here that what they've done is they've obviously just built one page, and they're doing a whole bunch of creative testing to see what works. But the problem is that if you are going to drive it to a page that's is that even slightly unrelated, you might fail, and all of a sudden whatever you spent here. So let's say, for argument's sake, if in their test they are running some ads that are all about claiming government solar rebates. Let's say that is an ad campaign. Then the spend. So let's say that's spend. That spend is valid, right? It's actually a reasonably good test, because it's the right concept going to the right lander with the right concept. But any money they spend on this one is actually wasted, or largely wasted, because the chance of that promotion working kind of reduces. I'm not going to say zero, because you can end up making these things work sometimes, but it's not a very good way to make it work. And it's a very inefficient way, I guess I should say, to make it work. So let's say if you were spending 10 grand here, 10 grand here, 10 grand here, all of a sudden you may have an overall campaign that's working, but you're still making a loss, or you still could be not making as a bigger profit, because these two are probably going to not convert as well at all. Not because it was a bad ad, but because it went to the wrong lander. Right, so that was the overarching concept. Now, your question on this.
Well, that pretty much answers it, but I do have another question, kind of obviously relating to this. What if you have affiliates running a landing page?
Yep.
What's the best approach?
Yeah. Actually, there's someone I'm helping right now. They run one decision tree for 15 clients, or some 15, 20 clients. And they've got one GTM container, and we are dynamically changing the logo, the headline, the footer, the everything of one decision tree. So he's only got one DT. He's like, I don't want to change. I don't want to have 15 DTs because it does my head. So I said, okay, fine. So he's made everything dynamic, including his Google Tag Manager container. So he fires a totally different pixel for each client. And he's got essentially 15 different headlines and 15 different banners and 50 different logos and 50 different whatever. So that to me is like a good example of sort of what you may be doing, except if it's affiliates, then your scale would be a bit bigger. Rather than 15, you may have 50 or 100 or 200. or some other bigger number. But that conceptually is sort of what you should be looking at if you are having affiliates run it. Now, the other thing to do is to coach the affiliates that even if you don't want to show me your ads, and I get it if you want to do like a double refresh or whatever before you send me the traffic, so you as the network can't find out how they're making money and so on and so forth, like all the tricks of the trade that people get up to prevent you from learning what's actually going on. To still pass them, a UTM param or maybe an ad appeal a variable or something, and then you can then redirect them just to a separate page here. So so in your case, it would look something like this. Hopefully, let's see if I can do it here. Right, so I'm going to bring up a new. So in your case, you've got affiliate A, and he sends, for example, let's say appeal X, and so what you do is you have almost like a decision node, or if you're not using leads hook, then you would have something else that's reading what that appeal is. And so if it's appeal, let's say I don't know, it's reading appeal X, and it's redirects to the right lander. If you don't want to go 100% dynamic, right? And then so obviously that if that affiliate now is passing passing in the URL and appeal Y, then it actually redirects to the lander, redirect to lander or appeal Y, and this one is going to be for appeal to lander for appeal X. Now, I reckon a lot of affiliates actually do end up wasting a lot of money in testing because unfortunately they don't quite have the benefit of this type of arrangement, because obviously there's only one lander that ever gets released, or very finite number gets released. So I think the way to do it would be to say, hey, listen, here are the 15 landers we've got. If you notice, each lander has got a totally different concept and idea and different design or whatever. We want you to try and send the ad that you're going to write about this to this lander, any ads you write about that lander, and we'll leave it to you, to your better judgment, because that's what helps you make more money. But that would be kind of like the proposition that you take to the market. And obviously, you'll probably be the only one. I've never seen a CPA network tell me that. They usually just have one lander and say, here you go, run everything to this. And so you're kind of, and so if there's an affiliate out there, that's why they start doing their own landers in the middle and pre-sale pages and all the other stuff to handle that they found an idea that is a little bit unrelated to the lander, and then try and have to park something in the middle to join the two conversations together. Essentially, that's what the pre-sale lander does in most cases, apart from the compliance issue that would occur. So I think that would probably be the best way to deal with your affiliates, would be to give them a set of landers that you've created, but almost educating them, saying, hey, listen, this lander is about this idea. So let's say if you look at our solar example, you'd have a no-cost solar lander, you would have a zero down solar lander, and then you'd have whatever the other one was, a government rebate lander. And that way you can tell them, hey, listen, if you wanna run ads about zero down, then make sure you send it to the zero down page as a way to, not just as a way for you to maximize your profits and have a higher chance of profiting. Because it's never a nice feeling for you, even as a CPA network, to have a bunch of affiliates who come in, they drive a bunch of money, and then they run away because they're like, oh, they got shit offers because it doesn't convert. Totally. But the problem is that it's almost seen like all offer is like a static thing. It's not. It's dynamic. And so changing the conversation changes everything, which is why sometimes like I'll do a consult, and they're like, hey, my lender's not working, or my ads are not working. So there was one that I shared a couple of weeks ago, I think. I don't know if you were on the call or not, where someone reached out to me and they were like, hey, we're looking for prime leads, and we're getting lots of subprime leads. And so when they showed me the DT, they had added in like all kinds of filters in it. They're like, are you a student? Are you a new migrant? Are you like essentially all the kind of people that don't qualify? And at the end, they had hardly anything left. And so they're like, there's just no way I can make my numbers work because it's too expensive. And I said, well, hang on a second. That's great. It looks overcomplicated. I'm not sure if this is the right approach here. What the hell are you trying to do? And what does the ad look like? So they showed me the ad. And the ad was like, how to get cheap loans or whatever it was. It's like, well, no wonder you're getting new migrants and people who don't qualify. So change the conversation in the ad, and you can remove half of the complexity of the funnel. And that was actually the answer. I don't think they did anything with it, but that would be how I fix it, rather than him saying to me, how do I make my decision tree better? I'm like, no, the question you should be asking is, how do I get the right person to the decision tree so that I can have a DT with only like 3 nodes and they already convert.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Thank you.
Okay, cool. No problem. All right. Hey, Josh, you had a question. Okay, would love to know any other APIs you've seen recently that are different to what we've discussed before. Any specific area we're talking about here?
Not particularly naked, so that you always come up with good stuff.
Okay, cool. All right, done. Okay, so I will pause. I can't remember if I've shared this or whether you were on the call, so I'm going to pause this one, all right? In terms of any of the new stuff, yeah, I'll share something in a couple of weeks that I'm testing something. Some of the APIs that I've been playing with, they're a little bit too slow for a production environment up front. But having said that, if you are looking for data augmentation, then there is an API that I'm looking at right now. Which market? This is US? Are you in US? No, you're not doing US, right?
I'm open, just curious what you've seen. We were doing a few things with like company lookups and that's been cool. Using the custom page notes.
All right, let me
just curious about other
yeah, you know what? I'll tell you what, I'll share it with you in a PM. I just need to find the link. It's a crazy API. You put like the email or the address or something, and it gives you the guys. It's a soft lookup for a credit rating, and it gives you the household size and the income size and how many unemployed people live in the house and all kinds of stuff. So I ran into it recently. I haven't verified its accuracy, but it was a pretty crazy API, and I was like, oh, that's pretty powerful. I could use that. So I guess the more important part here is usually is on data monetization side. So I'm gonna just quickly head to here, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Okay, because you've been on the call a while, so you probably are familiar. So what happens is usually you have your ad data, and plus you have your sort of like your DT data, right? So you partition UTM params. So what I mean by ad data is sort of like your ad, your UTMs. And any of the additional data that you want to pass across, right? And then you grab your DT data, and then you have your sales data if they convert. Now, if you are tracking the customer journey as well, then you're going to have some sort of your automations data as well, right? And so that usually, I mean, hardly anyone even does this. So this then allows you to then reverse so you go from sales, so you make sales your filter or what. And you look and you go from sales and you say, well, what does my UTM plus my DT data plus my automations data look like, right? Now, the reason I'm talking about automations data here, and I'll explain why, because the automations data is actually quite powerful. It gives you like the time to conversion, right? And it's often a metric that not a lot of people track or even look at. Now, this is an advanced thing. Obviously, once you've run out of all the easy stuff that we've been talking about for the last few weeks, then look at this. I would not suggest you go and waste time on this right away. But if you were to look at time to conversion, so let's say, for example, you did sales and you said who converts. So let's say you asked the question. You said who converts in like less than a week, and then you ask another question, which is sort of who converts who converts like in the 1 to like the 4 weeks mark, and then who converts at the 4+ weeks mark. So let's say that's the question you are asking in this particular environment. Obviously, some of you are running funnels that take months to convert. In your case, you adjust it for maybe less than 60 days and 60 to 120 days and 120 days plus. Right. So obviously these are judgment calls you're making. And the point you're trying to work out here is do you see any difference in the UTM data and the DT data that is showing you a difference in a profile? So the type of person who converts less than a week is a little bit different to the person who converts in 4 weeks, but we can identify them. So this guy is like, for example, like, I don't know, let's say a conservative, a conservative, oops, I can spell today, a conservative, you know what, oh, use spell check, easier. All right, conservative male, while this one is, you know, maybe a young person or whatever. Like some sort of profile will show up, but not just in terms of the demographic, psychographic data, but also sort of, you know, what ad they came from and all that kind of stuff. We'll give you an idea about the ad appeal that worked with this person. So young person plus the appeal that worked, which will be coming from UTM. Whether they're young or old and all that sort of stuff will come from the sales data and or the DT data. And then you have something here that talks about, you know, their appeal as well. And then the other, you know, the other, and what you'll soon realize is that there's probably a whole bunch of people in your funnel or in your business that is actually making you a ton of money, but you're actually probably not going after that audience because they came into the funnel but they converted 4 weeks late. If your window is, hey, you know what, we only chase people for 3 weeks, and then after that, you know, it's a dead lead. But what if there's a group of people that I don't know, that convert a little bit later in the cycle, and all of a sudden you've just discovered an entire audience out there that nobody wants, or there's nobody ever going to bid for, and therefore so what it does essentially is to just picture the funnel, and you've made it wider, right? And this to me is really kind of like the next level of what we can do now with the analytics and the data that we're doing. Even most analytics system you look at now, it's quite static. It's like, I'll click this ad, did it make money? And the window you're looking at is like, you know, like a 3-day window or a 5-day window or something, or from a lead gen perspective. Obviously, the salesperson has to look at a little bit of a longer cycle, but I've worked on some funnels where the conversions are happening, you know, 6-8 months out. And it just so happened that if you were to go and interview those people, you'll realize that they are a lot more skeptical, perhaps, or they may be jaded because they've been burnt in the past or whatever. It shows some characteristic about them. And all of a sudden, you've just opened up, you've widened the funnel to put more people in. Obviously, it's a bit of an advanced strategy, not something you will deploy right away, because obviously it's not a low-hanging fruit. You need to let time do its part before you learn. But some of you are running businesses where you are having conversions life cycle, as in a sales cycle of, you know, many months. And if that's the case, then this kind of understanding is absolutely profound, because it allows you to ensure that you're not killing off campaigns a little bit too early when there was data coming out of that campaign that actually was making you money, but it was a little bit slower than what you had anticipated. Josh, does that help?
That's great. Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, no problem.
Definitely keen to see that stock-full data as well.
Correct. Yeah. I'll share a bit about that. So this is Jay. I'm kind of looking at your business when I'm saying all this because you have a much longer sales cycle. So hopefully that helps you guys out. So yeah, but once again, you know, you got to like the organization has to be there. You know, just use Google Sheets. That's probably would be the best approach here. I think sometimes you get a little bit too caught up in, I want to, you know, add this fancy platform in there and that fancy platform there. Google Sheets are nice and easy. Just hire yourself an Excel whiz or a Google Sheets whiz on Upwork, and in 10 hours they can mash all the stuff up together and do the pivot table for you as well. So I would not, I'd rather you focus on ensuring that the data is being captured and stored in a Google Sheet than to consume time in trying to get all the fancy integrations, graphs, and charts already in some platform, because it obviously it'll cost you 10 to 15, 20 times more to get all that sorted out, while doing a webhook into a Google Sheet is super cheap. In fact, it's free. So and let the data just sit there until some point in time, let's say 6 months from now or 5 months from now, you get a little bit of data to play with, and then you can start meshing it up. Especially for you guys, so even you, Josh, because you've been running a funnel for a few years now, there's a lot of information that's sitting, I think, inside some database somewhere that could be utilized to gain a better understanding of what was the true motivator of this, because then you can think about how you're going to change your marketing, you're going to change your targeting, and perhaps give you some indication of how you can use that information in perhaps a different market as well. So yeah, thanks, Jay. Cool. Good question, by the way. So just on the API one, the question you want to ask is, what information, if I knew, and that's how I found those weird APIs, right? That's because I'm asking that question. I'm like, maybe great to know this. And then all of a sudden you go down the rabbit hole. Well, the rabbit hole is basically rapidapi.com. It's got like thousands and thousands of APIs there. So you can go and just search for whatever you want. And not every API on the planet is there, but a good chunk of them are already available there. So you can just go and search at rapidapi.com for any particular one that you want. Or you just ask a problem saying, hey, this problem API or library is the Google search. And that's how I found the name one, which obviously someone had said that they want to do some profiling. So we did some profiling. Or in my case, I shared an example where I run the data point with how your political views translate to the purchase of solar campaign. Oh, yeah. I'm actually quite curious about it. It's been an idea that's been sitting in my head for a while. About can we use political beliefs in other ways?
Is there any database or any API for that?
Yeah. I think the guy that I worked with, we just Google searched, and there was a database with zip codes, and whether that zip code was Republican or Democrat, and we just used that zip code, that data set.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what it was, and essentially it was a big Google sheet, and we would just make an API call on the Google sheet, and it'll come back with whether it was Democrat or Republican, and then we'll just use that in the decision node to change the headline in real time. The actual setup was quite simple, but the idea was pretty slick.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Okay, well, if there's no more questions, then we'll call it a day or evening. And I look forward to seeing you guys here same time, same place. I'll have some.
Thanks, Nick.
See you soon.
Hey, no problem, Jay. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Paul,
you.
thanks, mate. See you soon.
Cheers,
Eric,
mate. Thank you.
cheers, mate. See you. Bye now. Thanks, guys. Bye.